Hey, it's Lee again with DisputeBee. Welcome back to our next video where I'm going to show you how to use custom letter templates when you're creating disputes. So if you recall from our previous video, whenever you create a dispute, and I'll choose a collection in this example, and I'll choose this account from IC System, and we're going to select TransUnion and Equifax, and the reason is just going to be left on unverified account. I'm going to create this dispute now. So like you've seen before, here's a collection round 1 bureau letter for both TransUnion and Equifax, and you can see a collection validation round 1 letter for IC System. Now, you didn't choose to generate these specific letters just now, you just chose to create a dispute, and you chose an account and a reason. Well, based on that account and that reason, you can have other letters be the default letters that get generated instead of these letters that come from our own internal default system of letters. So let me show you how to set that up. First of all, I'm going to delete these so we can start from a blank slate. Then I'm going to go over to the letter library in the left-hand navigation panel. Here you can see is the list of all of our default letters that you've been seeing throughout our videos so far. You can see here's late payment, inquiries, collection. Here's the collection round 1 bureau letter, and so on. So if you view these, you can see this is what one of those templates actually looks like. You can see at the top there are just placeholders for the date, the client's name, their address, city, state, and zip, the bureau address, and so on and so forth. Here's the account information placeholder. This is what a letter template looks like. And I'll show you an example of letter template with a furnisher as well. Here is the collection validation round 1 letter for a furnisher. You can see it looks kind of similar. There's the date, the client information here, the furnisher name and the furnisher address, account numbers. So you can see this is again just what a letter template looks like for a furnisher. It looks pretty similar. So let me show you how to create one of these letter templates for yourself to override one of these defaults. You're going to click on the tab that says Custom Templates. And you can see there's a couple things in here already, and I'm actually going to just delete these so we can start fresh. And I'm going to create a new custom letter. Now let's say we want to create a letter to replace that collection round 1 bureau letter that was getting created by default every time we created a new collection dispute. So I'm going to call this letter My Custom Collection Round 1 Letter Bureau. It's kind of a long title, but it'll be identifiable when we actually create it for the purposes of this demonstration. So for the recipient, this is going to be bureau. This refers to the fact that this letter is intended to be sent to either TransUnion, Experian, or Equifax. If this was a letter that was intended to be sent directly to a collection agency or a bank or a lender, you would choose furnisher. So we're going to choose bureau in this case for this letter. Item type refers to whether this letter is going to be written for disputing an account on someone's credit report, or if it's going to be used to dispute an inquiry. The third option, none, indicates that this is neither for an account or inquiry, and instead it's just being sent to a credit bureau for the purposes of, let's say, sending a credit freeze letter, like I showed you in a previous video, or for updating client information with the credit bureau, and things like that. So right now we're going to leave this set on account. This final option here, called bulk letter, this just refers to whether this letter can have multiple items listed on it. Most of the letters you create will be able to have multiple items listed on it, and the example was, or an example is from the previous videos. You notice that there were letters that had multiple accounts listed on it. That's just what this refers to, if this is intended to be a letter that can have multiple things listed on it. So we're going to turn that on. So I'm not going to put a whole lot of contents in here. I'm just going to put a sentence or two. This is going to say, this is my custom letter. And just like you saw in those examples of our default templates that had placeholders, I'm just going to put a couple of these in here because I think you'll get the idea of how these can be used. So let's put the let's put the bureau address right here, and let's put the account info list. So this is going to be the placeholder that generates that list of accounts that is going to go on the letter. And we're going to save this. So we're going to start out with a really simple example of how to get this letter to show up in place of the default collection round 1 letter that you've seen in our previous videos. To do that, you need to do one additional step here. You need to click on this tab that says Letter Flows. Now, again, we're going to delete this so we can start fresh, and we're going to click on New Letter Flow. You can choose a name for your letter flow. It doesn't really matter what you choose because this is only going to be seen internally. I will call this my custom collection flow. Item type, again, refers to whether this flow is for an account or an inquiry. Dispute reason, this is how the letter is going to be chosen, or rather, this is what's going to decide whether the letter is going to be used or not when you create a dispute. So if you create a dispute for an account on someone's credit report and you chose the reason account is fraudulent, this flow would get triggered, and whatever letters you specify down here is what's going to get generated. So in this case, though, I'm not going to choose a specific reason. I'm just going to choose any. And what that means is anytime you create a dispute for an account, it doesn't matter what reason you choose, this is going to be the letters that get created. Now, you may want to choose very specific reasons as you're making your custom letters, but for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you how this works when you choose any. So this is a collection flow, and you may want to send, you're probably definitely going to want to send a letter to the bureau, and optionally you may want to send it to the furnisher. In this case though, since we only created one custom letter for the bureau, that's the only letter I'm going to choose. And you can see listed in this drop down are some of our default letter templates, and here at the very bottom is the custom letter that we just created a couple of minutes ago. So I'm going to choose that. Now, again, as you saw in a previous video, how there were multiple sequences of letters that got generated as you sent follow-up letters and received replies and sent more follow-up letters, it was automatically generating letters for you. Here's where you can configure what your different rounds are going to look like. If you had a second round letter, then you could select that here, or I could even select collection round 2 from our pool of default letter templates. Now in this case, I'm not even going to choose a second round. This flow is only going to have a single letter in the bureau flow and no letters in the furnisher flow. And let's see what happens then when we create a new dispute. So I'm going to save this letter flow, and I'm going to go back to our client, back to disputes, and we're going to create a new collection dispute, just as you've seen before if you've watched the previous videos. So once again, I'm going to choose this account with IC System for both TransUnion and Equifax, and I'm going to leave this reason set on unverified account. I'm going to click Next Step, Create Disputes Now, and you can see instead of using our default collection round 1 bureau letter, and instead of creating that collection validation round 1 letter for the collector, all you see here are 2 letters, which is your custom letter template being sent to both TransUnion and Equifax. So if we take a look at this letter, you can see all of the placeholders that you chose in your letter template have been filled in. This was the text that you wrote for your letter. This was the bureau address, which in this case is for TransUnion. And here was the account info list placeholder. So you can see that there's one account listed here, and that's because we only chose one account when we created this new dispute. I'm going to delete these and create a new dispute to demonstrate what happens when you choose multiple accounts. So we're going to go back to collections, and this time let's choose a few of these here. So you can see for TransUnion there's going to be 3 accounts, and for Experian there's only going to be 1 account. And for Equifax, there's only going to be one account. So I'm going to click Next Step, Create Disputes Now. And as you see, there's still only one letter for each bureau, but if we look at the TransUnion letter, you can see there are now 3 accounts listed here. These are the 3 accounts that were listed at TransUnion from the previous screen where we created this dispute. If we look at the Equifax and the Experian letter, you can see how these only have one letter listed here. Same with the Experian letter. This is a very simplistic example because if we choose to mark these letters as sent, just like we did in the previous video, at this point, when you click Receive Reply, and we won't check that anything got deleted, and we save this response, you will notice that there is nothing in your list of follow-up letters. Previously, when we showed you how the dispute manager worked, there would have been a round 2 letter here, and then even after that, there would have been a round 3 letter and a round 4 letter. Well, right now there's nothing, but that's because we haven't added any additional rounds to our letter flow. So let's go back to the letter library, and we're going to go back to our letter flow. We're going to edit this, and let's add a round 2 letter here. And in this case, I'm just going to actually choose one of the letters from our default pool of templates, which is a collection round 2 bureau letter. And I'm going to click Save. And once again, we'll go back to our client's disputes. And now you will automatically see, if you click on follow-up letter, here is the round 2 letter waiting to be sent. The letter flow instantly recognized that you had previously sent a round 1 letter, but your letter flow has been updated to have a round 2 letter attached to it. So now that's why it's waiting to collect or to create a collection round 2 letter, and we can create that here. It's very simple. If we would have specified a round 3 or a round 4 letter, then after you send this letter and click Receive Reply on it, if you had a round 3 or a round 4 configured in that flow, that would now be showing up in this follow-up letter list. So I'm going to show you one more quick example of what you can do with custom letter templates. Let's go back to our letter library and find our letter flow. This time, the only change I'm going to make is instead of choosing a dispute reason of any, I'm going to choose a specific reason of, let's say, account is fraudulent. And I'm going to save this letter flow. Now let's go back to our client's disputes. And we're going to create a new dispute again. Now, this time, for this IC system account, I'm going to choose from the list of reasons that account is fraudulent. And if I click Next Step, Create Disputes Now, you're going to see here are your custom templates. But let's redo that one more time. I'm going to delete these letters. And this time, I'm going to select that this IC system account is, let's just say unverified account again. And I'm going to click Next Step. Now you'll see that our default letters have been generated here. That was because the letter flow was specifically configured to only match up with disputes that had a reason of account is fraudulent. Since the dispute we just created was a different reason, it's falling back onto our default templates. So that's how your letters will be generated. If it matches one of your custom letter flows, then your custom letter templates will be used. If you don't have any letter flows that match, then the system will fall back onto our default letter templates. And that's pretty much it as far as how these letter templates will go or will work. You can also send custom letters outside of a sequence. If you click on the Other Letter button, all of your custom letters will appear in this list here. So if you just want to send a single letter, you can do that from the Other Letter area. And that covers how to use custom letters and custom letter flows. If you have any questions about this, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned for our next video where I'm going to show you how you can send letters electronically, and it's actually going to send out real USPS mail, but you're not going to have to print a single letter or take anything to the post office, and you can send real USPS standard and certified mail just with the click of a button. So stay tuned for that next video. Alrighty, thanks for watching.